Hi, friend. You said you need my help. What can I do for you?
Friend, would you explain the book you read in the library yesterday? I am sorry I had to get home yesterday because my mom was sick and nobody could take care of her.
Is it the book entitled Technical Presentation Workbook? Winning Strategies for Effective Public Speaking? By Richard L. Sullivan and Jerry L. Wyszynski, we searched in the library yesterday.
Yes, that book. You read the chapter about delivering a presentation, right?
Okay, I will explain it for you. Remember that we will have an exam about the materials next week.
Thanks, my friend. I know that I can always count on you.
Those first critical moments, the first few minutes of your presentation are critical. We recommend that you watch the previous video about how to kick off your presentation. Here are a few last-minute reminders about those first few moments. Look your participants in the eyes, pause, and then welcome them to your presentation. Focus on the needs and wants of your listeners. Let them know orally or by using media what they will learn or be able to do as a result of attending this presentation. Determine what your participants expect from the presentation. Ask them to state the topics or areas of concern they would like you to address during the presentation. Knowing their expectations early in the presentation will afford you opportunities to meet their needs, which in turn will increase their interest level. Never apologize for your presentation. Excuses and apologetic remarks create a negative impression and lessen interest before you even begin. Consider the impression these statements make. I know you're busy, so I will keep this short. I know many of you would rather be back at your desk getting some work done, but I apologize for asking you to attend. Be optimistic. Make positive comments that show you are confident that participants will find the presentation to be informative and enjoyable. For example, use comments such as, "This morning we are going to focus on techniques that will help us all be more efficient. I am confident that you will find this new computer software package offers tremendous benefits. I appreciate you taking time from your busy schedule to attend this presentation. I guarantee that you will find this new information on polymer process engineering extremely valuable."
Alright, what about the verbal communication during our presentation?
Effective verbal communication. Techniques how you say something is just as important as what you say. In fact, you may have some very important information to share. But if participants have a difficult time hearing you or find it hard to follow your presentation, then you may be wasting your time. Let's take a look at some critical verbal communication techniques. Project your voice and periodically change the tone, pitch, volume, and rate of your vocal delivery. There is nothing more deadly to a presentation than a presenter who is speaking in a monotonous voice. Maintain an appropriate pace. If you move through the information too rapidly, many participants will have a hard time following along. If you move too slowly, then participants may become bored. Pause for emphasis at important points and emphasize key words. The pause helps focus the audience's attention on what you are about to share and indicates that this is important information. For example, the 3 key principles of successful communication are: pause. 1. To ensure that the most important factor we want to consider is pause, that if we fail to avoid the use of fillers. Fillers expressions such as okay, and presenters often feel that something should be coming out of their mouths at all times. So when they are thinking of what to say next, they may make these irrelevant sounds. Some participants may become sufficiently distracted by such interjections to start counting the number of times the presenters repeats the same word or filler. Having a complete set of notes of your key points and subpoints will help prevent these fillers from leaping out of your mouth. Enunciate clearly and distinctly. Audiences find it very annoying to listen to a presenter and not be able to understand the words. To avoid this problem, keep your mouth moist and free from candy, gum, mints, and food. Use participants' names as often as possible. People like to hear their names. You will see later that names is critical when asking or answering questions. Here are some examples of how to use names. Brian has had some experience with this type of valve. Brian, could you share with us? Ellen, you worked with polymers for several years before joining our department. What do you think of my suggestion that we... Does anyone have a suggestion regarding our next step? Yes, Tom? Use familiar terms and expressions. Many presenters feel that they need to impress the audience with their vocabulary. Your job is to inform, not impress. If you introduce an unfamiliar term or expression, then define it. Make smooth transitions between points and other elements of your presentation. These transitions should be highlighted in your presentation notes and might include a brief overview of the next topic, an agenda check between topics, a change of media, an interim summary before a new topic, an activity, for example, case study or problem-solving activity. Use lots of examples. Examples include personal experiences, facts, figures, illustrations, anecdotes, quotes, photographs, real objects, and videos. Participants want and need examples. An appropriate visual or story make your point clearer. Examples can also be pulled from the participants. There are many different ways to lead into an example. Let's look at a classic example of metal fatigue. You will notice in this visual that Sean, can you give us an example of I would like to pass around some examples of, for example, if we praise participants as often as possible. Providing positive reinforcement to participants offers a number of benefits. It increases their interest level, keeps them focused on the topic, and improves the climate associated with your presentation. Here are some examples of how to provide praise and reinforcement. Excellent point, Jim. Lisa has made a great argument for Betty has a strong background in fast cycle product development. Maybe Betty would share with us. That's exactly right, Dick. Accept ideas and suggestions from participants. Those attending your presentation may have moments related to your presentation. Be willing to accept their input, even if it is contrary to information you are presenting. This shows an open mind and a willingness to look at other aspects of the topic. Here are some examples of accepting statements. Kay offers some good suggestions about why we shouldn't make the changes to the system. Before I react, does anyone have any other comments? Thank you for sharing that viewpoint. John makes a good point. Let's take a few minutes and discuss. Carmen, if I understand your position, you are suggesting that we consider express opinions or supply information from both sides of an issue when appropriate. This helps participants to see the big picture. Here are some examples of how you might do this. Similarly, another approach would be to, on the other hand, if we examine, let's take a look at the other side of this issue. Emily, can you tell us what the opposite approach might be? Use appropriate humor during your presentation. Periodic and suitable humor helps maintain participant interest and attention.
You have explained the verbal communication during our presentation clearly. Now, please explain the nonverbal communication during our presentation.
Effective nonverbal communication techniques. Have you ever attended a presentation and found yourself watching a distracting mannerism that the presenter used repeatedly? No doubt you missed some of the content as a result. The master presenter is aware of nonverbal behaviors that, if done correctly, can improve the delivery of the presentation. However, when these same behaviors are performed incorrectly, they can be the downfall of a presentation. Here's a list of some critical nonverbal communication techniques. Maintain eye contact with your participants. Look at everyone in your audience without staring and watch for questioning looks, confusion, boredom, agreements, and disagreement. Based on what you see, you may want to make some adjustments to your content, questions, and schedule. For example, maybe it's time for a short break. In terms of your notes, glance at them to see the next point, but then return immediately to looking at your participants. Avoid moving your eyes too rapidly, as this indicates that you are nervous. Maintain positive facial expressions. If you look like you are in pain, participants will get the feeling that your heart is not in their presentation. Smile, look relaxed, even if you're not, but enthusiastic, and show that you are enjoying what you are doing. Gesture with your hands and arms. One potential presenter asked, "Am I an actor or a presenter?" The answer is that you are both. Appropriate gestures with your hands and arms will help emphasize key points and maintain the interest of your participants. Gesturing becomes difficult when you are carrying your notes with you. You'll be freer to gesture and move around the room if you use various forms of media to display your notes.
Is there any specific gesture we should do during our presentation?
Gesture do's. Let your arms hang loose at times. Put your arms behind your back at times. Spread your arms with palms open to emphasize a point. Choreograph your gestures with important words or points.
What about gesture don't single quotes?
Gesture don'ts. Put your hands in your pockets. Jingle change and keys in your pockets. Fold your arms, look defensive. Wring your hands, look nervous. Play with pens, pointers, markers, etc. Play with your tie or other clothing. Constantly touch your face.
Please tell me more about nonverbal communication during our presentation.
Keep your mouth in good working order. As was mentioned previously, avoid having anything in your mouth, with the exception of an occasional swallow of water. Presenters often ask how to take a drink of water without anyone watching. One suggestion is to move near your glass of water and then ask someone a question. While they are responding, you can take a quick drink. Maintain good posture. The way you stand and move communicates a great deal to the audience. Stand erect. Slouching tends to convey a lack of energy, interest, and confidence. Avoid sitting on a table or the edge of a desk unless it is a very informal group. Also, avoid yawning and stretching. Move about the room with energy. Doing so will help you gesture naturally. Moving around the room also helps maintain the attention of the participants. But do avoid pacing. Many presenters avoid the use of podium, desk, or table, as these often create a barrier that prevents movement into the audience. Tables arranged in a U shape offer you plenty of space to move within the group. Plan ahead when you need to move back to the computer to advance to the next slide. Follow your notes. If you are not careful, you will lay down your notes or cards and move around the room without them. This is fine if you periodically return to your notes to glance at the next point. However, if you stop following your notes and try to wing it, you're likely to get into trouble eventually.
Do I need to refer to my handout during my presentation?
Refer to your handouts. Handouts are likely to be part of many presentations. It is important to let participants know where you are in the handout materials. Suggestions for using handouts. Use handouts to support your presentation, supplement your presentation, allow participants to jot down a few notes if needed, and listen since the key points are captured in the handouts. Handouts can be papers, reports, articles, copies of notes, drawings, and schematics, manuals, copies of your computer presentation slides. Be sure to place the handouts in order. Number the pages, use tabs if placed in a notebook. Color code different handouts if tabs are not used. Distribute handouts at the appropriate time. Provide blank paper for taking notes.
During my presentation, should I ask questions to the audience?
Yes, you should. There are numerous reasons for our presenters to ask questions. Questions encourage participants to think about the topic. A well-stated question requires participants to give a particular point some thought, and the response can add meaning to the discussion. Questioning and the subsequent interaction help keep participants interested. When you are attending a presentation and the presenter is asking lots of questions, you are likely to pay close attention so that if asked, you can respond appropriately. Also, when there is a high level of participation, those in the audience naturally pay more attention. Effective questions help you determine whether participants understand the information being presented. If you ask the same question of several participants and the responses are incorrect or vague, then you must assume that you have not been clear and need to explain the gist of the information again. Questioning also affords the audience opportunities to participate and share their knowledge. Questioning also helps you control the pace of your presentation and prevents information overload. Interacting with the audience will prevent you from covering so much information that participants feel overwhelmed.
Are there any disadvantages to asking questions?
Extensive use of questions can be more time-consuming than when questions are not used. Also, when a few participants dominate the interaction, the usefulness of questioning is diminished. However, as you can see, the benefits of questioning far outweigh the limitations.
Well, please tell me effective questioning techniques to avoid it happens.
Effective questioning techniques. Questioning is not an easy skill. However, it is so critical to a good presentation that you would be well advised to use it. Here are some techniques to help you ask effective questions. Develop some questions when you develop your presentation notes. As you look at your content, you will recognize points where you will want to ask questions. These could be places of transition, synthesis, or conceptual complexity. Essentially, ask questions whenever you want to be sure that participants understand the information. Design questions to be brief. If you ask a question that is too long, you will hear that age-old response. Would you repeat the question? Ask questions at various levels of difficulty. Some questions might require only yes or no. Others may require that the participant explain a point in detail. Ask questions of the entire group. Such group questions are open to anyone who wishes to respond. Consider these examples. Can someone share with us some of the advantages of using advanced composite materials in machine components and mechanical systems? Now that we have discussed the roles of engineering manager, who can give us at least 3 characteristics of an effective manager? Target questions to individual participants. This allows you to include those who do not respond to the group questions. Here are two examples. Mike, now that we have discussed the report, can you share with us your recommendation as to our next step? So it appears that we can use a variety of procedures to conduct non-destructive tests. One that may be useful to our company is ultrasonic imaging. Mary, what do you see as an advantage of this procedure? Ask the right question at the right time. Select the right type of question and then phrase it so that it solicits the best possible response. For example, if you want to stimulate everyone's thinking, then direct the question to the entire group. If you want the opinion of one person, then direct the question to that person by gesturing and using his or her name. Use names with questions. Notice in the previous examples that participant names were used extensively. One of the major advantages of questioning is that it permits you to use participant names, which helps maintain interest and attention. Attempt to involve all participants through questioning. While some participants may not want to get involved, most of those attending your presentation will welcome the opportunity to respond to questions. Repeat participant responses and questions. When an individual responds to or asks a question, it may be necessary to repeat the response or question so others can hear. Repeating the responses is also a form of possible feedback because you are acknowledging their answers. Provide positive reinforcement after participant responses. Use a variety of approaches to reinforce correct responses. Here are some examples. Excellent response, Jane. I think Bob is correct. That's right. Very good, Paul. Now can someone tell us? Incorrect responses can be handled in a number of ways to minimize embarrassment. Here are some examples. I can see how you might get that answer. Jerry, that is not exactly what I was looking for. Kay, you are close. Do you want to try again? Respond to challenging questions. With some topic, you may have participants challenge you. When this challenge comes in the form of a question, you need to respond. Here are some of your options. Repeat the question and open it up to other participants. After you react to any answers from other participants, give what you feel is the most appropriate response. Let the participant know that he or she brings up a good point, but that you do not have sufficient time to respond during your presentation. Ask that the participant visit with you after the presentation or during a break. Let the participant know that his or her question is beyond the scope of your presentation and that you will talk together after the presentation. Ask different types of questions. There are several types of questions that you could ask during your presentation. They are factual questions. These are designed to collect information or to check for understanding.
Would you give the examples?
Sure, examples. Sarah, what type of software is your unit currently using to diagnose pump failures? What is the first step in the project planning process? Opinion questions. Opinion questions seek to find out participants' ideas or opinions about the topic. They help you to better understand the views of your participants. Examples. Mickey, what is your opinion of the new software? What is your reaction to the new technology? Expansion questions. These types of questions prompt your participants to elaborate on their responses. They encourage the respondents to provide more details. Examples. Jim, will you elaborate on your point? Erin, could you provide us with a few more details?
How does a speaker answer participants' questions?
How to answer participants' questions. Repeat the question so others can hear. answer the question or open the question up to the other participants, or redirect the question to another participant, or ask the originator another question to help him or her discover the answer. If you don't know the answer, admit it, but then go on and find out the answer. Don't let off-topic questions get you off the topic. Advantage or limitation questions. These questions allow participants to look at both the strengths and limitations of their responses. Examples: now that you have cited the strong points of your position, what are the limitations? Alex, what are the advantages and limitations to the conversion of the assessment technology? Probing questions. These types of questions help you to get more in-depth information from your participants. Examples: what factors contribute to the problems in your department? Sean, what is your assessment of the problem? No boundaries questions. These are fun questions because they eliminate the day-to-day constraints, or they temporarily remove the obstacles from a person's mind. Examples: if tomorrow you were to assume the team leader duties, what would be your first course of action to improve morale? If budgets were of no concern, what new technology would you order to make the application process more effective?
It's clear. Let's come to how to summarize my presentation.
How to summarize your presentation. Your presentation is divided into 3 major areas. Introduction. Tell them what you're going to tell them. Body content. Tell them summary. Tell them what you told them. The summary provides a review of the main points you want your participants to remember. It also draws together the main points of the presentation, thereby ensuring that participants walk away with a clear understanding of your presentation. The summary should be brief, addressing only the key points, and may involve participants through questioning and interaction. You can use a variety of summation techniques, including the following. Ask the participants for questions. This usually results in a very few questions, but at least you asked. Ask questions of the participants. Since you gave them a chance to ask questions, you can now ask them several summary questions, covering the main points of your presentation. Use a computer presentation or flip chart to review your summary points. Ask for or share the next step. If your presentation relates to a proposal of some sort, keep your summary brief but powerful.
That is comprehensive. I get it. By the way, is there any sign that indicates a presenter does not plan for his or her presentation?
Okay, 10 signs that the presenter did not plan for the presentation are: 1. The first thing the presenter says is, "I must apologize for." 2. After 10 minutes, the presenter looks around the room and notices he is the only person left. 3. You hear deafening laughter from the adjoining room as the presenter reaches for her presentation notes. 4. You ask for a handout and the presenter says, "A handout? I wish I had thought of that." 5. The presenter has trouble turning on the computer. 6. The presenter is using a microphone and you still can't hear a word being said. 7. The first computer slide contains 100 words in a small font. 8. The room holds 300. You are in the back row and the presenter announces that all the visuals are on a flip chart. 9. The presenter announces that the handout contains all the details, just as the person next to you picks up the last copy. 10. There are 250 people in the room and the presenter says, "Please break up into small groups." Do you get all my explanation, Yev?
Yes, your explanation is very clear. Thank you so much. I feel more confident to have our exam next week.
I'm glad you get it. I review my comprehension toward the materials too.